This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. With free weekly content and free shipping over $100, you can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. I'm also sponsored by Face to Face Games, Canada's premier Magic the Gathering store. Using the promo code MTGMudsta will get you 5% off site-wide, with eligible orders getting free shipping Canada-wide. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, just so you know, the Folio Portfolio number 2 is now available on Kickstarter. With sweet art like Sylvan Tutor, Chaos Warp, Bottle Gnomes, Infernal Darkness, Orcish Librarian, and Puzzle Box, there's sure to be something for everyone. It's running until November 18th at 10 PM PST, and be sure to use my affiliate link below when you pledge to back this project. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game has Miirym playing his Gavi Nest Warden deck, and it's Jeskai cycling. He'll be able to use his cycling abilities to generate cat tokens, draw cards, and get some fun effects with stuff like Astral Slide. Seb is playing Kyler's Sigardian Emissary, which is Selesnya human tribal. He plays a lot of humans, they get big, and they smash face. Marie is playing Cadira, Caller of the Small, and it's also Selesnya deck, with a more focus on populating and tokens. Last but not least, I'm playing Miirym, Sentinel Worm, which is Temur Dragon Tribal. Max wins the die roll and starts us off. He plays a tapped Sacred Foundry, passing. Seb plays a tapped Sunpetal Grove. I draw and play a tapped Sheltered Thicket. Marie has a Command Tower for turn and passes. Max also has a Command Tower, paying 2 for a Thought Vessel. Seb draws and plays a Forest, and then taps a white and a green for Shanna, Sisay's Legacy. I play a snow-covered forest and cast Nature's Lore, going to find a breeding pool. Marie just plays a forest. Max has a mountain, and then casts a Boros Signet. Seb plays a forest and casts a Somberwall Sage. Going to combat, he swings Shanna at Max, dealing 2, and passes. I don't want to be left out, so I play a Command Tower of my own. Marie has an Exotic Orchard and casts Aura Shards. Max draws and plays a Command Beacon. He then casts Gavi, and once she's out, free cycles a Drifting Meadow, drawing a card and making a cat. Seb plays another forest for turn and taps a Somberwall Sage to help cast Kyler. He follows up with a Champion of the Parish, putting a counter onto Kyler. Moving to combat, he swings Shanna at Max for 5, who blocks with the cat token. After that, he passes, and I cast Growth Spiral, drawing a card and putting out a snow-covered island. I draw and play Sarkhan Unbroken, down taking the Walker to make a dragon token and then pass turn. Marie draws and plays a Marsh Flats, cracking it and losing 1 to find a Temple Garden, shocking it into play. She then plays Smothering Tithe and passes. Max pays 2 for the Tithe like a good boy and casts an Anointed Procession. He then cycles a card to create 2 cat tokens and passes. Seb draws but doesn't pay the 2 and plays a Plains. He casts Shamanic Revelations, drawing 4 and not paying the Tithe for any of them. Going to combat, he swings Shanna at Sarkhan and the rest at Marie. I chump with my dragon token while Marie takes the hit to the face. I draw and decline to pay for the Tithe as well. I uptick Sarkhan, not paying the 2 again as I draw and make a mana, and then use the mana to help cast Miirym. I then shift the turn to Marie. Marie plays a Boulder Loft Pathway, and then plays Cadira, and the Aura Shard trigger destroys the Anointed Procession. She follows up with an Oran Frostfang, which as it enters, destroys Max's Boros Signet, and she then passes turn. Max draws and doesn't pay the 2. He casts a Savine's Reclamation, targeting the Drifting Meadow to bring it back. He follows up by cycling a Chroma's Vengeance for free, making a cat token and not paying the 2 as he draws. He then passes to Seb. Seb draws and declines to pay for the tithe. He plays a Canopy Vista and then casts a Cadira, Champion of Light. He follows up with Catilda, Dawnheart Prime, and moving to combat, swings everything at Marie. She blocks Kyler with the Orin Frostfang, but still takes the rest. And after that, Seb passes. I draw, and don't pay for the tithe. I uptick Sarkhan again, making a mana, and drawing, and not paying for that either. I cast the Great Henge, and then go to combat. Miirym goes at Seb for 6, and after that, I pass. Marie draws, and goes to combat, swinging her commander at me for 3. I take the hit, and with Cadira connecting, Marie gets to make 10 rabbits from her trigger. The Aura Shard wipes out the board of all artifacts and enchantments, and I use the Great Henge to add 2 green and gain 2 life before it's destroyed. Marie then follows up with a Tendershoot Dryad, and an Inspiring Leader to buff her bunnies. She then goes to pass, and I use my floating mana before losing it to cast Sarkhan's Triumph, going to grab a Terror of Peaks to my hand. Maxim draws but doesn't pay the 2, and Marie makes a Saproling from her Tendershoot trigger. He plays a Training Center and passes to Seb. Seb doesn't pay for the tithe, and Marie makes another Saproling. Going to combat, Seb swings Sigarda at Marie, and the attack trigger reveals a Sigardian Zealot. She takes the damage, and after that, Seb casts a Herald of War and passes to me. Marie gets her Saproling, and I don't pay for the tithe as I draw. I uptick Sarkhan once more, making a mana and drawing a card, and not paying for it, and I play a Path of Ancestry. I then cast a Scion of Draco, and make a copy of him for Miirym, and pass. Marie makes another Saproling in her upkeep, and draws her turn. She plays a Scepter of Celebration, and equips it to Cadira before moving to combat. Marie swings all the rabbits and 3 Saprolings at Seb, who blocks the Saprolings and a rabbit. Before damage, Seb casts a Semester's End, blinking his blockers to save them. He still takes a whopping 27, and Marie draws 9 cards. She then follows up combat with Intangible Virtue and a Benny Brax. She then plays Anointed Procession. Marie wraps things up by playing a Plains, and then draws a card from Benny Brax while Max casts a Mystical Tutor to go and find Winds of Abandon. Max draws his Winds of Abandon and doesn't pay for the tithe. He then overloads it in his main phase, and we all search for lands, with Marie pulling almost every basic out of her deck. Going to combat, Max then swings his cats at Marie and deals 6 and passes. Seb draws and doesn't pay for the tithe, as Marie basically has infinite mana at this point anyway. He recasts Kyler, and then plays a Path of Discovery, and then Lenore. He explores as Lenore enters, and keeps a Bastion Protector on top. Going to combat, he puts a +1/+1 counter onto Kyler from Lenore, and passes. I draw, and play a Windswept Heath, cracking it and losing 1 for a Snow-Covered Forest. I then uptick Sarkhan once more, making a mana and drawing a card, and then cast Dragon Tempest. I follow up with a Savage Ventmaw, and deal 1 to Seb, who I then swing the Ventmaw at. In my post-combat main phase, I use the 6 mana to help cast Terror of Peaks, dealing 2 to Marie with the Dragon Tempest trigger, and pass. Marie draws, and plays Titania, bringing back her Marsh Flats from the graveyard. Her Aura Shards destroys my Dragon Tempest, and she then plays a Cabaretti Courtyard. She erroneously grabs Canopy Vista, instead of a basic like she should have, but we do catch it later on, and gains a life. She makes 2 5/3s as a result as well, and the Aura Shard trigger destroys the Path of Discovery. Marie follows up with a Tireless Provisioner, and then cracks her Marsh Flats for a Canopy Vista. And at this point we realize the mistake for the Canopy Vista, and she finds the Plains and corrects it. This makes her 2 more 5/3s and 2 food from the Provisioner, and she then casts Eldamri's Call, going to find Avenger of Zendikar. She casts it, making an incredible amount of plants, with 44 of them coming in. She then eats her 2 food tokens to gain 6 life, and plays Ellen Harbrize, and then recasts Cadira. After that, she passes. Max draws and casts an Aven Wind Guide and goes to combat. He swings his now flying cat tokens at Miirym, who takes the hit, and after that, Max passes. Seb draws and casts Recycle in his main phase, and then once that's resolved, casts Bastion Protector, which we'd seen earlier. This draws him a card from Recycle. He then casts a Sigardian Zealot, and gets to draw again from Recycle before moving to combat, putting a counter onto Kyler from Lenore and drawing a card. The Zealot trigger then goes off, further pumping up Kyler, which in turn pumps up his other creatures. Seb then swings Kyler and Lenore at me, and I drop to 8. Seb then passes turn. I draw, and uptick Sarkhan again, drawing a card and making a mana. I recast Miirym, who upon entering, deals 6 to Miirym, who has nothing to do to save herself, and dies. Moving to combat, I swing the Terror and Ventmaw at Seb to take him out as well, and then use the Ventmaw mana to cast a Balefire Dragon. This makes me a copy as it comes in, and I get 2 Terror triggers, dealing a total of 12 to Max. And after that, I pass turn. Max draws, and plays a Mystic Confluence, targeting my Balefire Dragons to bounce and draw a card. In response, I cast Ghostly Flicker on the real Balefire and the Terror of the Peaks. They both re-enter, with Miirym making copies of each of them, and I deal a ton of damage to Max thanks to the Terror triggers. With nothing to stop it, Max sees the writing on the wall and scoops it up to me. Game review time. I was really happy with how Miirym played out in this game. I've consciously made the choice of not running counterspells and instead using blue as a way to blink my creatures, as a way to get a removal. It also synergizes incredibly well with Miirym since it gives me more tokens. I'm enjoying the deck immensely, although I am a little bit worried that I always seem to want to go and find Terror of the Peaks, but it is a huge damage dealer and threat though for the deck. Speaking of threatening, both Selesnya decks in this game were particularly dangerous. First up, Seb's Kyler deck, as you've seen in the past, can get out of hand incredibly fast. What I particularly enjoyed about Seb's deck this time around was seeing some new cards in action, like that Sigardian Zealot. Another new card that was in Selesnya was Cadira, and my goodness did Miirym get a bunch of rabbits. While we were streaming this, chat had dared her to get over 100 tokens, which unfortunately she wasn't able to, but it did seem like she was getting closer and closer until that Winds of Abandon. I still immensely enjoy Maxim's Gavi deck. I just love cycling, and I really wish I did better with mine. Maybe one day I'll rebuild it. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.